Good morning, students. I hope that you have already learned about what we have learned in our previous classes. Okay, so what have we learned today? Yesterday, we have learned about matter. What is matter? Then, what was matter? Can anybody say? Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. Then we learned about the three states of matter, say solids, liquids, and gases, isn't it? Now, and we learned about some of their properties also. Okay, that they have mass, do they have volume, do they have a permanent shape, etc. So, now let me ask you one question, that what constitutes this matter, or with what things, put those things in inverted commas, with what things is this matter made up of? So today let's look into that. Okay. All of you have seen potassium permanganate, isn't it? What is the color of this potassium permanganate? Yes, very good. It's pink in color. So I am going to add some potassium permanganate to a beaker containing some water. Okay, let me do that. Take a beaker containing water. Then I have some potassium permanganate. I'm going to add this into water. I'm sure that you will be very excited to see this color. Okay, I'm stirring this with a spoon. I have added potassium permanganate to a bottle of water and I'm stirring it well. What have you observed here? The color is very dark pink, isn't it? So now I'm going to transfer just 1 spoon of this potassium permanganate and water solution to another bottle, identical bottle that contains same amount of water. Okay, I will show you that. This is another identical bottle that contains water. Now you can see that what color of this water is? It's colorless, isn't it? Now I'm going to add just 1 spoon of this potassium permanganate from the first bottle to the second one and stir it well. What is the color? Or can you see the difference between the first and second bottles? What is the difference? Yes, this was our first bottle and this is dark pink in color, and this is our second bottle, which is it is pink but it is a lighter color. So what are we going to derive from this experiment? Yes, I will say that each single crystal of potassium permanganate is made up of crores and crores of particles. Note the point, particles, not the word particles. And each such potassium permanganate particle bear the property of the parent substance. That is, here what property we are looking into? That is the color, isn't it? So in the first bottle, the color is dark because the amount of potassium permanganate is very large, and in the second bottle, pink color is lighter because the amount of potassium permanganate is very less compared to this in the first bottle. But still the pink color is retained here. Though the number of particles decreased in the second bottle, still it contains some potassium permanganate particles. And each of the particle can exhibit the property of pinkish color, isn't it? That's why we got pink color here in the second bottle also, but the color is lighter. Okay. So we can generalize this to all materials. That is, every substance is made up of every matter is made up of tiny particles which is invisible to our naked eyes as a single particle. We can observe it as a large mass, but a single particle is of K-4 is unobservable for our eyes. Okay. So every substance or every matter is made up of tiny particles, and each of these particles bears or exhibit the properties of the parent substance. Hope you can read this. Okay. So what we can conclude from this is that matter, first one, it is made up of tiny particles. This is the point which we are going to look into. Okay, so matter is made up of tiny particles. Now I am going to do another experiment. Okay. Here I have a bottle of water and I have marked the level of water with a blue paper. Hope you can see this. Okay. Now I am going to add some salt into this water. All of you please keenly observe. I have taken some salt particles. Now this bottle consists of two types of particles. First one is the water particles and second one is the salt particles. I can see the salt particles inside at the bottom of this bottle. Hope you people can also see this. If you can't, you just do this experiment in your house with me. Okay. So this consists of salt particles at the bottom of this bottle. Now I am going to stir it well. Let us observe what will happen. All of you please take a bottle of water like this and do with me. Okay. Then only you can see it clearly. So you may know what will be happening. Okay. Yes. Now I cannot see any salt particles at the bottom of this water. So what has happened here? What magic have happened here? Where has the salt particles disappeared? We know that salt will dissolve in water. Okay. But how that dissolving occurs? Or where has this salt particles went? So the answer to this will be, can anybody guess what will be the answer related with the term particles and think? Okay, I will tell you the answer. The water particles. The particles of water have ample space between them. Okay, that is, I can represent. Suppose this white colored round represents water particles, which shows that the particles are not tightly bound. They have some space between them. When I added salt into this, and when the salt particle dissolving means that the salt particles get accommodated in this space between water particles. I will represent salt particles with a yellow chalk. See, this is the water particles, these are the salt particles. And that's why we cannot see this salt particles intact. Also it is very small. Okay. So what we can gain, information which we can gain from this is that matter consists of particles, as you know, but there is some space between these particles and we call it as interparticle space. So the second property is of matter on interparticle space. Interparticle space. Hope you can read this. What is interparticle space? It is very simple. Interparticle space is the space between particles in a matter. Okay. It's the space between particles in a matter. So as you all know, solids and gases are also three forms of matter. Obviously, they must also possess some space in it. But the amount of this space is different in solids, liquids and gases. The case of liquids we have seen here. What about the case of solids? Hope you can see the stone, isn't it? Take a stone like this, then take some salt as before and try to mix it with this stone. Can you mix it or can you dissolve that salt in this stone? No, it will just be around the stone. We cannot take it into the stone. It is because in the stone, the particles of this stone are tightly bound together and the space is very less, so that no other particles can be accommodated into this solid. So we can generalize that in solids, the interparticle space is very less compared to that of liquids, compared to that of gases. Liquids have little more space between these particles compared to that of solid, but less than that of gases. And gases have the large interparticle space between them. Just keep this in mind. We will do an activity based on this. Okay. So before that, all of you might have observed that when you enter a dark room, suppose it's your classroom, you are entering in one day morning, the classroom is completely dark, and when the first person who is to opening the door can see that a path of light can be seen that is passing through the room, isn't it? When you open the door, sunlight from that particular path will be passing to this dark room, and you can see some dust particles dancing in between. Hope all of you might have seen at least once in your lifetime. So why these particles are dancing, or why this dust particle is dancing? Here also we have to resort to the property of particles. I have told you that there are ample space between, or enough space between particles of air, isn't it? And these small dust particles are accommodated in between these spaces. And the second property of these particles is that these particles are at constant random motion. Random motion. That is, this particle of air, suppose this is one particle of air, it is always moving and vibrating somewhere, like we cannot say a specific direction. Still, this is vibrating like this. Suppose this is a dust particle. This vibrating air molecules collides with this dust particle, and this dust particle will move to any direction. Okay. And when it goes to that particular direction, another air molecule from that side will come and collide this dust particle. Then again this dust particle will move to another direction. So we can say that matter or particles in matter are at constant random motion. Here also there is a categorization for this random motion, that is, in solids this type of random motion is very negligible. I don't think that you need any explanation for that, isn't it? And in liquids this random motion is little more prominent than that of solids, and for gases they exhibit the most prominent random motion is exhibited by this gas particles. Okay. Now, second one, all of you have seen this chalk, isn't it? I'm going to break this chalk. It is very easy for me to break this chalk, isn't it? Yes, I have simply done this. Very easy. Now I am going to take this stone, trying to apply the same force which I have applied to the chalk and trying to break it. I cannot break this. Okay, take this pen. Can you break this by applying same force as you apply to the chalk? No, isn't it? Why? You know that this stone and this chalk piece both are solids. Then why I couldn't break the stone? Yes, again here we have to resort to the property of particles. Though these both are solids, the particles of this stone is tightly bound compared to the particles in this chalk. That is, in every matter, the particles always have a force of attraction between these particles. They are attracted to each other. So this is called interparticle force of attraction. See this. This is interparticle force of attraction is the force of attraction. Not the point that this is an attractive force. Force of attraction between particles in matter. And this force of attraction varies from substances to substance. I won't say that from solids, liquids and gases, but from substances to substance. Generally, we can say that in solids, the interparticle force of attraction will be very large. That's why I couldn't break this stone. But in water, it will be little more less, and in gas, it is obviously very small, isn't it? But in case of solids, take the case of solids. Stone and chalk both were solids, but I couldn't break stone. So that means that this force of attraction varies from substances to substance, not from solids to liquids to gases, but from substances to substance. Okay. So this is another property of particles in a matter. It is called interparticle force of attraction. So what have we learned today? We have learned today about particles, properties of particles. Okay, so these are the properties of particles. This is our hero today, isn't it? This is our hero today, that is particles. So particles are tiny, they are very small. Then particles have space between them. Then particles are at constant random motion and they have a force of attraction whose extent varies from substance to substance. Okay. So now we are going to do an activity based on what we have learned today. Okay. These are the three representation of the arrangement of particles in the three states of matter, say solids, liquids and gases. These circles represent each single particle. But I have it marked which one represents solid, which one represents gas. You have to find out this from using this information. I have written three properties here: interparticle space, interparticle force of attraction, rigidity. All these things we have learned this. You have to arrange these three in the increasing order. Say in the increasing order of interparticle space. That is, first write case 1, case 2, case 3, or simply write 1, 2, 3. Just put the number in the increasing order of interparticle space. See the first figure. Which one has lowest interparticle space? Which one? 1, 2 or 3? Figure 1 has lowest interparticle space. See this? This is the interparticle space, isn't it? You can see here that this is the space. It is very small. Whereas in this case, you have some more space. Here you have a large space, isn't it? Between particles. So you can arrange it in an increasing order. That is, start from the lowest one as 1, 2, 3. Isn't it? I will write it as 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now see the word interparticle force of attraction. That is interparticle attraction. It is again evident from the figure that if attraction is more, the particles will be bound together more closely. So the case in which the particles are more tightly bound together will have more force of attraction. But we have to start from the lowest one because we are asked to arrange in the increasing order. Okay. So how will it be? It will be 3, 2, 1. Isn't it? I hope that there is no doubt for that. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now what about rigidity? Those particles in which, or that matter in which the particles are tightly bound together will be more rigid. So in that case, the one with lowest rigidity will be case 3. Isn't it? So this is also 3, 2 and 1. Okay. Now we have to find out from this table which one represents solid, liquid and gas respectively. So we will take the case 1. See that this is case 1. Case 1, case 1. See, in case 1, interparticle space is less and interparticle force of attraction is the largest and rigidity is also the largest. So what will be that? It will be a solid like this. It is very rigid, isn't it? Yes. So this case 1 represents a solid. So this is the figure of a solid. Then what will be second one? Or just go to the third one. This is the third one. Now look at the third one. Third one has the largest interparticle space, the lowest interparticle force of attraction and lowest rigidity. Of course that will be gas. Then no need to explain more. What is case 2? Very good, it's liquid. Liquid. So, thus we have found out the arrangements as solids, liquids and gases. Okay, I hope that you have understood this topic and I will give you an homework. Just write it down. This is the homework question. Write a short note on matter, particles and their properties. That is what we have learned in this class. Okay. Second one is an activity, that is, with plastic balls make arrangement of particles in solids, liquids and gases on a chart and understand their properties. That is, you know that we will get some colored balls, plastic balls, or you can use colored thermocol balls. Take a chart and make the arrangement, and these balls represent particles. Arrange them as how they will appear in solids, liquids and gases. You may use different colors for different states of matter, and in the downward part just write down the properties. What is the interparticle space? Is it less or more? Like that. Okay. So I think it will be an interesting activity for you. So I hope that you have understood today's topic. Thank you.